Heading to the capital city this morning, be careful. That was one of the areas hit hard by this winter blast. This video taken at I-25 in La Cienega showing drivers slowly making their way across the icy interstate. This plus freezing temps overnight is the reason roads there are dicey this morning.
In the metro area, that part of the state was hit hard too. That could mean dicey driving conditions this morning. You can see at least one driver did lose control yesterday, but some kids took advantage and pulled out the sleds for a little spin on the slopes. Heading into the city from the East Mountains could be another battle this morning. The road was especially icy on South 14. As you can see, a good amount of snow fell there. And with the cold temperatures, you can bet that not a lot of it has melted in time for the morning drive.
And we've been keeping an eye on road conditions for you all morning. Here's a live look at the New Mexico Department of Transportation website. Several areas across the state still in yellow, which means difficult driving conditions. The state transportation department warning drivers of possible icy spots on 599 in Santa Fe. Roads in around Los Alamos and Taos could also be slick this morning. And as Kristen mentioned, we're getting a break here in the metro today from the winter weather, but the recent moisture these past few weeks is a welcome sight.
In fact, News 13 has learned that we could be on track to set a record this December. News 13's Catherine Mazzone spoke with the National Weather Service about the December outlook, and she's live in downtown Albuquerque with more on that. How are we looking, Catherine?
Well, Adam, in talking with the National Weather Service, I learned that if we continue on this wet weather trend, this could be one of the top 5 wettest Decembers we've seen here in Albuquerque.
We're over an inch for the month now, and we see more on the horizon.
Jones is with the National Weather Service. He says with the precipitation we saw yesterday, we're at least in the top 10 wettest Decembers, if not the top 5. But most of that has come in the form of rain, not snow. Jones says that's something unusual for New Mexico, considering December is usually our snowiest month, with an average of 2.8 measurable inches in Albuquerque. But this year we're far below that. As Kristen Curry tells us, we're right now at about 0.9 for December. In fact, these unseasonably warm temperatures this month put us in the running for yet another record, one of the 3 warmest Decembers we've seen. Jones says we got a late start to winter this year.
This is coming off a very warm and dry October-November period, right? And even in Albuquerque, we typically see our first measurable snow just right around or after Thanksgiving.
Now, that being said, we're still seeing a lot of moisture, but will it be enough to bring us out of this drought? I'll have that answer in our next half hour. Back to you.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. And Jones does say that they're excited about what they see coming up in the next 7 to 10 days. He says they're on the storm track, which means we should expect weather systems to be moving in every 3 to 5 days.
And KRQE News 13 is your winter weather station. For the very latest on storms, road conditions, and school information, we've got you covered on air and, of course, online at krqe.com. Don't forget about those school closures right at the bottom of your screen this morning. A mom is speaking out to News 13 after it took the DA's office years to put a child predator behind bars.
She says her son walked into the men's room at the Costco near the Cottonwood Mall in 2011 and was recorded. A Costco employee, Matthew Braniff, confessed to police that he filmed that boy as he urinated as part of a porn tape that he was making. He was put in jail that day in 2011, but bonded out just 2 days later. It took more than 3 years for prosecutors to put him behind bars.
It's been pretty difficult seeing the changes that have occurred in our son for something that he didn't ask for.
We questioned the district attorney's office about why it took so long to prosecute the case. They say they were understaffed and that the Crimes Against Children Division had a backlog of 400 cases. The family's attorney says that sends the wrong message.
It's completely outrageous that this took 3.5 years. And when you think about it in context, it was 3.5 years that a sexual predator was running in and out of stores like Costco.
That family is now suing Costco, saying the company does not properly supervise its workers. We've posted a copy of that lawsuit if you'd like to see it for yourself on our website, krqe.com. As for Braniff, last month he pled guilty and was sentenced to a year in jail. He'll also have to register as a sex offender for life.
It will be a tough morning for some Albuquerque students after one of their classmates died in a fire. The 16-year-old girl was killed in a house fire near Four Hills yesterday. Her family says she had stayed home sick from school. She attends Mazzano High School. Firefighters found her body inside her bedroom on the 2nd story of this home. Neighbors who saw the flames took a hose to fight the flames while waiting for fire crews to arrive. There's no word on a cause this morning, but AFD says it did start in the bedroom.
6 minutes past the hour, we're staying on top of the latest in a traffic stop shooting that we first brought you here on KRQE this morning. We now know the name of the driver shot and killed. Deputies say Adam Padilla had a gun when they pulled him over late Tuesday night near Central and Unser. They say after asking him to get out of the car, there was a struggle with the deputy who then shot him. We spoke with Padilla's girlfriend who was in the vehicle with him at the time. She says the deputy tased Padilla and then shot him while the taser wires were still attached.
They had their control by tasing him. They didn't need more control by shooting him over and over.
Padilla did have a criminal history that included DWI, domestic violence, and animal cruelty. The name of the deputy involved has not been released yet. Federal investigators say it's looking more and more like North Korea is behind the Sony Pictures hack, and now the studio has pulled the plug on releasing the film called The Interview. It's about a plot to assassinate the leader of North Korea. This after a group called Guardians of Peace threatened anybody who saw it. Meanwhile, the White House says it's considering a range of options here.
Developing right now, the Boston Marathon bombing suspect is preparing for a court appearance, and security there is tight. Now, this is where Dzhokhar Tsarnaev has been held this week, the Bureau of Prisons facility at Fort Devens, Massachusetts. Today's scheduled hearing is the last one for Tsarnaev before jury selection begins in a few weeks. The trial is expected to last several months. And Americans are still divided this morning over a historic deal that is restoring ties between the U.S. and Cuba. The deal comes after an American, Alan Gross, was released yesterday after spending 5 years in a Cuban prison. He was exchanged for 3 Cuban spies being held here in the U.S. Leaders of Cuba and the U.S. have agreed to build an American embassy in Havana. Many Republicans are denouncing this deal. And if you're getting ready to head out the door this morning, bundle up and drive carefully. After a winter storm hit much of the state, driving conditions are a bit dicey this morning. This is what Santa Fe looked like with a lot of fog and roads still wet, plants frozen over. Many bundle up to stay warm there. If you're heading in from the East Mountains, several roads there are still slick after getting snowpacked from the storm.
Get a good indication of what the Santa Fe area looks like there. Current look at road conditions. Live look at nmroads.com gives you a kind of an overall picture of the trouble spots right now, including just north of the metro area and down south. We're going to be keeping a close eye on all of this for you today. Let you know if there's any trouble spots, particularly in the metro area, as we get ready for the morning commute here in just a few moments. With this recent rain and snow, weather experts say we could be on track for a record-setting month.
But it's not for the snowiest December, but for the wettest and warmest on record. But did we see enough moisture to help get a hold on this drought? News 13's Catherine Nazone gathered those facts. She's live in downtown Albuquerque with the answer. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. That's right. It hasn't been real cold or snowy this December, but it has been wet. We're over an inch for the month already. But if you go back to 2011, January 2011, we're still 9 inches shy of where we should be.
We've made a dent here over the past, this monsoon season, and of course with this precip we're having in December. But, it's still, we still have a lot to make up.
It's Kerry Jones with the National Weather Service. He says we've seen a lot of moisture and there's even more on the horizon. But Jones says we're still in a drought and we're not likely to get out of it anytime soon. So what will it take? Jones says it's all about snowpack. He says December is usually our snowiest month with an average of 2.8 inches of measurable snow in Albuquerque. As Kristen Curry tells us, we're right now at 0.9 for December. But this year we're well below that. In fact, Jones says it's looking to be one of the warmest Decembers on record, meaning we have a lot of catching up to do.
It's a late start this winter, so we really need to build the snowpack in the mountains as we go through the rest of this season. And it's going to take that and another season before we really start to, have a major impact.
Now, Jones says he is excited about what they're expecting for the next 7 to 10 days. He says we can still expect more winter storms, and that means more opportunities to add to our totals. Back to you.
All right, thanks for that, Catherine. So what about Christmas? Well, we asked, and Jones says we've only seen a handful of white Christmases in the past 2 decades. In fact, we most often see snow on the 12th of December and on the 26th, the day after Christmas. But we are expecting a storm system to arrive right around then. We'll have your Christmas forecast outlook in about 10 minutes with Kristen Curry. The wintry weather inspired our viewers to show off their photography skills. Yesterday, Elizabeth from Rio Rancho sent us this picture of her backyard blanketed in snow. And here's another picture sent in from Rio Rancho. And Juan took this photo of his car caught in freezing rain and on a very icy driveway there.
You know, the snow is great news for ski resorts right now. You can see skiers lining up at Ski Santa Fe as they patiently wait to take turns in the fresh powder here. Strangers bundled up together, bracing against the cold wind. At Taos Ski Valley, 2 adventurers brave the icy conditions and hike up the mountain with their skis over their shoulders. Why not when you got those kind of conditions? If you want to check out the webcams for yourself, go to KRQE.com and click on Ski Report and Ski Cams. We've got that resource for you under the Weather tab. And the very latest on our continuing weather coverage. Stay with us on air, of course, online, all the time, KRQE.com.
New and developing this morning, one person is dead after a shooting in northeast Albuquerque. Police say someone was shot on tramway near Indian School last night around midnight. The victim was taken to the hospital where he died. The investigation remains very tight-lipped at this time. Police are not releasing the name of the victim or if they have a suspect. We're staying on top of the latest. We'll update you as soon as we get new information. As soon as that becomes available, that is. The Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office has identified the man shot and killed by a deputy. Deputies say Adam Padilla had a gun when they pulled him over late last night near Central and Unser. He got out and struggled with the deputy who shot him. We spoke with Padilla's girlfriend who was in the car at the time. She says the deputy tased Padilla and then shot him while the taser wires were still attached. Padilla did have a long criminal history. The name of the deputy involved in the shooting is still not being released at this time.
5:35, an Albuquerque woman now knows her sentence for kidnapping and hiding her kids for more than a decade. A judge sentenced Eileen Clark to a year of unsupervised probation and also to pay more than $1,500 in restitution. Clark had no comment as she left the courthouse. In 1995, Clark is accused of taking her 3 kids from her Placitas home after her then husband, John, asked for a divorce. In 2008, Eileen and those kids were finally tracked down living in London. She was extradited to the U.S. over the summer to face charges and pleaded guilty to international parental kidnapping. Startling new numbers this morning on just how many children may have died across the country because of abuse or neglect. Over the past 6 years, the Associated Press found that number is nearly 790. And some of the children died even after authorities began investigating their families for abuse or neglect. One case in New Mexico that gained a lot of attention is that of Omari Varela, who was stomped to death by his own mother in December 2013. That prompted city officials in Albuquerque to create the Child Abuse Task Force.
Security concerns at Lano this morning after thieves swiped tools from a secure area at the federal facility. According to the Santa Fe New Mexican, on at least 3 different occasions between May and August, tools from the largest waste disposal zone at Lano went missing. An expert says the tools probably pose little health risk, but could be dangerous if they were exposed to toxic chemicals. The lab refused to give police the names of the workers who had access to the area, so the theft cases were eventually closed.
Federal prosecutors are now filing criminal charges 2 years after several Americans died of meningitis. Police arrested 14 employees at a Massachusetts pharmacy in connection with an outbreak that killed 64 people. That outbreak was traced to tainted drug injections made by the New England Compounding Center in Boston. The senior pharmacists are accused of knowing the drugs were being made in thoroughly contaminated labs.